Hello and welcome, and special welcome to Malkoc from Unite and Alev from Ford, Turkey. So we are here today to talk about how can we accelerate your journey through managed services, right? Just when we say managed services, before we get started, maybe we should have a couple of Menti polls. What is your current managed services status? And where do you see managed services in 3 years' time? While we all think about that, let's go back and understand what managed services is all about. So you see the questions coming up on your screen, take your time and you can respond. We actually did a recent survey with our clients and some analysts to find out what is managed services and what's the market size. Did you know that the managed services market is about 360 billion by 2025? And you have all players coming in to grab a piece of it, right? But what our clients are actually telling us is, hey, we don't want you to just to deliver something. We want you to actually provide a service that is globally consistent. Because as we heard earlier on, you need to have scale. You need to build consistency. And our clients are also telling us we want to actually have a lot of IP-centric because everything is going data and digital. So a big market, a lot of players, but we have chosen to play in an area which is basically driving value and effectiveness for our clients. So for us, managed services means where you bring the people, the process and technology to actually integrate the client's technology to give value and effectiveness. Talking of value and effectiveness, one of the things that I believe, Malkoc, you will come very quickly to is intelligent automation as a service, right? An area that we are here to talk, how can you accelerate? So without further ado, let me ask you a question. When we talk about intelligent automation and how do you accelerate, typically people go and say, oh, I need to buy some licenses. I need to set up a center of excellence. I need to do a planning. And before you know it, time has lapsed. So how do you accelerate the start?
It's a great question. Let me answer that question, if you will, by some of the challenges that we see organizations have faced over the past decade where we've been in this business. And there's really 5 key areas of concern. The first is skills shortages rather. Automation is in demand and automation experience is in demand. So there's 2 factors there. First of all, the cost of people that know how to drive these automations is rising, as is the cost of those who manage these automations, develop these automations, and so on and so forth. And with that creates challenges for organizations simply because the costs are rising and also because of turnover. So we've seen huge potential transformation projects within organizations fail simply because headcount leaves. When it leaves, all the know-how, the experience goes with it, and they're just left in a void.
So could I just interrupt and ask Alev, do you also see people leaving?
Yes, really, it's a very, we are also having some shortages in terms of resources because this is a very niche area also in Turkey. So yes, we also dealing with some kind of problems.
Thank you. Sorry, Malkoc.
That's fine, thank you. The second area of concern is CapEx issues. As you quite rightly said, to start to work with automation, you need to invest in licenses, infrastructure, headcount, and this creates cost. And obviously, organizations want a return on this investment. And we see pressure within organizations to really ramp up automation. And let me give you an example of what I mean there. We typically, over the past 10 years, the past decade, we've seen even the best automation programs have utilization rates of between 35 to 40%, which means that basically the investment infrastructure is working at between 35 to 40% capacity. And even then, it's not enough. So to give you an example, one of our largest customers on the platform is a medical group, or one of the largest medical groups in the region. And they run processes at the end of the month, so there's a seasonality in their processes, and that's very typical. So you have front office processes that are working when there's demand for customer service, which is normally at peak hours during the business day. You have back office processes And then you have processes like this group, which is at the end of the month. It's a consolidation between insurance companies that are working with the hospital group for medical benefits. And consistently, this company, over its history, had to scale up on workers, and that drove down that utilization even more overall. But the capacity was never enough. So moving to a managed service, they basically address that issue. So that's two. We've got skill shortages, CapEx pressures. The third is obviously time to value, as you quite rightly said. To be able to identify opportunities and then build infrastructure in-house to address those opportunities typically takes between 6 months to a year. And so that means that time until you're getting the automations running is a loss. Again, ramping up that is a consistent pressure as we identified for the return on investment.
So can I just, sorry to interrupt you there, because you triggered about that ramp, and I want to bring that. You spoke about the utilization. Would it therefore be right to say that, there's always a pressure because you've invested the CapEx,
Yep.
it's not being utilized. So are you almost then maybe running to find problems to solve when there are none?
You know what? It's a very valid point. You're doing automation for the sake of automation rather than doing automation for the sake of transformation. And that's absolutely right. So to fill that capacity, you start to put processes on there that really don't transform, don't create value, but you need to build up the utilization. And that creates pressures, significant pressures on managing that as an afterthought. And today, consistently, we've heard about centers of excellence. And it's very traditionally an afterthought. So you build up the capacity, you identify the opportunities for transformation, and then suddenly one of the processes don't work. And you realize that even the best automation technologies require centers of excellence, require management 7/24. So the service management aspect, not only managing issues and incidents when they arise, but identifying them in the shortest amount of time, being able to resolve them in the shortest amount of time, being able to assign service levels so you can give accountability to the organization for the automation itself, is a key area that needs to be invested in. And that brings me to the final area of challenge for organizations, which is what I call the silos of technology. Today we've heard about different automation technologies coming out. We've heard about ChatGPT, and technology is constantly evolving, constantly new areas coming into view. And companies, they start investing in one area, and one of the first areas they're investing is RPA technologies. And then they realize that to transform or to address core processes, they need other investments as well, such as IDP, conversational AI, communications mining, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. And the way that companies address this is they build these as silos. So you have your RPA, Center of Excellence, IDP, Center of Excellence, infrastructure for that, infrastructure for this, a Center of Excellence for this, a Center of Excellence for that. And of course, that just simply multiplies the amount of investment and resources companies are pouring, which also creates pressure to increase the returns overall. And so
could I just pause you, because you just triggered, and Alev, I'm sure you have one or two comments perhaps on this one, what you see. May I bring you in? Do you have a point of view perhaps about the different technologies?
Yeah, first of all, it's a great pleasure for me to meet you all in such a big and exciting event. Really, I'm joining from Ford Otosan at our R&D offices in Istanbul. First of all, as you know, my country, Turkey, is dealing with some great challenges during last 1 month, and it's good to know that the whole world is behind us. I would like to thank every one of you who felt this big sadness inside and support us recover. First of all, let me introduce myself and my company very shortly. I'm leading data and automation-driven transformation since January 2022 at Ford Otosan, which is one of the leader commercial export companies in automotive with more than 400K production capacity in Turkey. And Ford Otosan manufactures 83% of trans vehicles of Ford Motor Company in Europe. And it's a joint venture, actually, of Ford Motor Company and Koç Holding, which is Turkey's largest industrial and services group. Last year, we handed over the Craiova plant as we have achieved exports amounting $8.8 billion, sustaining our Turkey and also the sector leadership. So, as you imagine, we have lots of technologies inside, and the RPA journey at Ford Otosan started in 2017 with the establishment of the Committee for Simplifying the Processes. And during these workshops, manual effort-consuming and long processes are identified and challenged. So we started to explore solutions, to automate these processes so that we could save valuable efforts of our qualified engineers. And in parallel, we initiated the agile transformation, and our P team is organized within the digital products and services. So we support the focus on qualified tasks by dramatically reducing labor efforts thanks to the software robots. We automate time and effort-consuming, really repetitive tasks, such as in finance, accounting, and human resources processes with an uninterrupted service. So really, automation and this kind of technologies are very, very crucial for us. So far, we have left more than 100 processes to the bots, and the cost advantage is around $3 million in 5 years. So we have lots of technologies also, as you mentioned, in Ford Otosan currently use.
Wow. But it was very impressive. I picked up the one number, 3 million saved, 100 process automated. Right. I mean, that is very impressive. And maybe that's a good segue to you, which is, you've given us the view that you can get started with the managed services, right? How do you set it up? Mm-hmm. But how do you scale and all these technologies? And maybe you can give a few points on that.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alev, because I think it really brings me to the point. I mean, we've raised the 5 challenges, so let's go through them again. Skills shortage, CapEx pressure, time to value, the requirement to build a real center of excellence to manage those automations, and then the silos of technology. And really, I think Alev exemplifies what an organization should be doing. An organization shouldn't be there managing the technology. An organization shouldn't be concerned with the return on those investments. The organization should be concerned with transformation. And that's what an excellent managed services program should do. It should allow people within the organization to focus on the opportunities of transformation, of automation, rather than managing it. And I think that what that means for an organization is access to technology when they need it, driven by service levels, being able to rely on a partner that provides them with digital workers to be able to scale up, scale down, a myriad of different technologies, all working to accountability. So having the accountability to provide the service levels, and also the accountability to be able to identify issues when they occur, whether it's with the automation or not. And so, addressing the second question you had, and apologies that it might have taken a bit long, but the first area that we looked at was really the ability to be able to provide that service. So we've built what we call a hyper-automation platform that brings together all these different technologies as a single source, allowing companies to have this service provided to them in accordance with SLAs, so they can measure not only the transactional SLAs, but also the service level SLAs. It's managed 7/24, so companies don't have to invest in the centers of excellence. Companies don't have to have people around managing the infrastructure, managing the licensing, being concerned with scaling up, scaling down. It's literally like piping a technology or an automation into the environment. We provide visibility so companies can see at any moment the entire transaction status. They can see the entire service health of the platform itself. If there's an outage, where the outage is, who that outage is with to fix, the accountability there, and manage in terms of SLAs and OLAs. And the most incredible thing is that it's pay as you go. You pay for what you consume at the end of the month, based upon your consumption. So the return on investment is extremely high, and the IRR is unparalleled. I like to think of it as a palette. So we provide organizations with a palette of automation technologies, and we allow those organizations to paint their own canvases without worrying about the service management aspect, without worrying about the return on investment.
So, whenever you say palette, I'm always scared, because we are here in the land of Van Gogh, and the others. And I'm not expecting everybody to be, and I'm sure Alev will agree, not everybody is a Van Gogh or a Picasso. So how do you help clients to paint a picture of automation and scaling? I mean, do you have some examples where you're working, perhaps?
Yes, I do. I mean, one of them is an EY customer, one of the first customers on the utility platform. It's an organization in Africa, one of the biggest organizations in Africa. And they had some concerns. The first concern was that they wanted a digital labor force based on SLAs. They didn't want to be worried about buying licenses, keeping licenses, going to procurement to upscale. They wanted a service delivery based completely on SLAs. The second thing they wanted was that this is obviously a core process, a very important process. It's actually an invoice to pay process. So it includes their entire vendor ecosystem as well. And they wanted accountability for if there was anything down with that process, so the service management aspect. The other key area was that this technology required, this process required 4 different areas of technology. It required conversational AI, it required RPA, it required conversational mining, and it required IDP, all in one. And we delivered that to them from a single source. They were basically able to provide service from day one, scales up, scales down according to SLAs, working seamlessly.
So are you able to manage the peaks and troughs?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the great thing about the technology is that we scale dynamically, which basically means that the orchestration capability of the platform ensures that our customers have the digital workers, whatever technology that is, IDP, RPA, according to the processes that are coming through. They don't have to worry about buying those licenses, they don't have to worry about creating the infrastructure, the availability of the infrastructure, and they certainly don't have to worry about managing that process. As I said, the other big advantage that we give to customers is simply the transparency of the process itself. We see from, coming back to the original question, that one of the biggest issues that companies have is they invest into these automation technologies, yet the reporting isn't out of the box. One of the big advantages of having a managed service is that it gives that accountability, and with that accountability comes confidence in the technology. And the key with that confidence, it enables you as the digital transformation department within an organization to scale much further, because the experience with the automation programs is really at the highest level. And that's very key to a managed service.
Indeed, indeed. But I want to go back a little bit before we bring Alev in. You know, the peaks, and you have, I'm sure you worked with clients, you know, who buy a lot of things and just keep it for peaks, right? How did you help them? I think when we were speaking, you had some examples, right?
Yeah, again, coming back, the key, well, we have actually 4 or 5 customers that have come onto the platform simply for that reason. But I think one of the key is, as I said, the hospital group in Turkey. A surge of processes at the end of the month, which are basically insurance consolidation. So I'm a patient, I come to the hospital, I go for a process and I pay with my insurance card. At the end of that month, that basically means that that hospital group has to consolidate the spend with the insurance group to get the claim back. And that's done at the end of the month. So this customer, for example, had on-premise licenses. They had huge amount of digital workers surging at the end of every month. So 1 week at the end of every month, you have a peak, and the rest of the time, there was no process in comparison to the amount of transactions that were coming from that. So the workers were never enough. There was always a requirement to scale up, scale up, scale up, and the rest of the time it was just this gray area of non-usage. And of course that creates pressure. It creates pressure on the organization because they, on the transformation division within this organization, they have to go to procurement. Management is looking, saying, you've invested so many hundreds of thousands of dollars in license infrastructure costs. The returns, what's the return? And yet this is a process that's now on digital workers that has to run digitally. So it's always scaling up. We took that load off them. It's now completely pay-per-use. They run the transactions. We ensure they have the capability to be able to automate those processes based on SLAs. And at the end of the month, they pay for what they use.
Brilliant. I think that answers probably some of the questions that people may have in their mind. You know, how do you start up? How do you pay per use? I mean, that's a brilliant example. I mean, 2 examples. One, what you're doing with us in one of the countries, the insurance managing the peaks. I think, Alev, I know you've been leading automation from your company in 2017, and you have been doing a great job. That's what Malkoc just said. So I would really like to turn to you. Perhaps you can talk to us. I mean, I don't know if you're already a painter with a palette of technologies, you know, whether you're Van Gogh or Picasso, but perhaps you could paint your journey. What is the trigger for Ford Otosan to get into the automation, you know, and where are you now, and what is all the palette of colors of technology you have, and maybe some of the learnings for our audience. You know, what would you say? Hey, if I did it again, what would be different? Would that be good? Would be good to hear from your experience.
Yeah. as I mentioned, actually our automation journey starts with simplification because we are a huge company, really. And with the purchasing, of course, the Craiova plant in Romania, now we are getting bigger. So we have modernized the RP platform last year with UniteBT, and we started to use UiPath platform powered by hyperautomation, and it provided us a real acceleration actually last year, because we are not limited with the standard RPA processes, Suresh. We started to benefit from artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. And combining RPA with AI technologies offers us the real power and flexibility to automate where automation was never possible before. Like, for example, undocumented processes that rely on unstructured data inputs also. And we aim to design end-to-end automation using hyperautomation platform with our trusted partner UniteBT because we can scale better really, and with use and pay model. And business, besides, monitoring is also getting important because with the increasing number of processes on RPA, and our processes are critical as they have impacts on manufacturing, operations, and sales. So it's important to get a continuous high-quality service and get the confidence and trust of our business stakeholders. And I would like to really thank the UniteBT team for supporting us on this tough and long journey. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I just want to add, I think Alev's being very modest. I mean, Ford Otosan is one of the biggest exporters in Turkey. And as you said, 83% of vehicles are manufactured in Europe from Ford Otosan. And one thing I'd like to add is Alev is key to driving that transformation because she can focus on really driving transformation. And as she said, the processes that Ford Otosan are at the moment driving onto the automation platform involve IDP, conversational AI, communication mining, and really increasing the scale of that automation journey very, very rapidly.
Wow. And I think, Alev, if I come back to you, because I picked up something, right? And I'm sure you're being very modest, because to drive an automation in a firm like this, you would have faced some challenges, but you pushed it forward. I mean, you're almost looking like a painter. The moment you mention all the technology names, I can almost see you painting a wonderful. So can you highlight some of the challenges in implementing or something that you face? Any learnings you would say? Let's say I'm starting something new. What would you say, Suresh? Beware of this, or any lessons learned you could share, perhaps?
Actually, first of all, setting up the right organization is very critical, and also getting the support really from the management and also from our business stakeholders. Now we are really trying to make aware of everyone, in the organization that about these opportunities, because while you are getting bigger in the organization, you are starting to get lost in terms of processes, in terms of complexity. That's why start with good and very maybe small parts and get some success on that, and then extend it to the whole organization. For example, we started with first in the manufacturing sites, automizing some very complex processes and get some good financial impacts. And then started to communicate with HR, finance, and other time and effort-consuming processes, and we got in contact with the other stakeholders, business stakeholders. I recommend to begin with actually small scope, and then achieve some success, and then extend it to the whole organization.
Oh, but that's excellent. I again, listening to you very carefully and putting what Malkoc said, you're obviously a driver. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's very evident the way you said. And what I picked up very clearly is set up an organization, and you focus on one of the most complex areas, manufacturing in your case, and created a success. And I think that, of course, that will immediately resonate. And then when you have a managed service, because then your SLAs are taken care of, right? Mm-hmm. And if any bot, whatever is taking care of the incident prioritization, that helps, right? So that's a very good learning. If I just summarize, you start You start small, but start in a complex area, bring the success, show the financial returns, and then you start accelerating with a partner. Would that be a good summary of what you said?
Yes, of course. And of course, your partner in this tough journey is also important. So I prefer a local partner, actually. It is also important, I guess, who can support you continuously and have a very high quality service besides. So also selecting your actually partner is also very important, crucial.
Okay.
I'd just like to add, I think one of the key things is confidence in the automation program. And I think the platform, this platform, the utility-based pay-as-you-go platform, enables you to give that confidence simply because it's providing you with a service, not just a managed service, but also the visibility. So one of the great things about this platform is it brings together a myriad of different technologies, IDP, RPA, but it also sees that really as a business process. So when it's providing that automation to you, it's providing you the automation with the accountability to manage the process itself. So the SLA is based on the transactions, the SLA based on breakages. A key for any automation program is change management, change management, change management. And within this, we've built in the best practices for service management, which includes, let's say that, Alev's team is key in developing the processes, but if something isn't working, we raise an incident, and that incident is relayed to a service catalog, which says, this is where the automation isn't working. And we know that it was this developer and this person in the organization who's accountable for the infrastructure where it's not working. And we have an OLA for that. So they have a responsibility to fix that within a certain amount of time.
And I want to pick on that because you mentioned something which people who are not familiar with managed services may not be familiar. I mean, you have an SLA. You've also got OLA, which is operational level agreements for those who are right. What I also picked up is accountability, right? Strong governance and change management. I mean, they all go to, that service wrap is something that you really need to have. So that's...
Suresh, you can see from the management portal, if a process isn't working, why it's not working, who's responsible to fix it, what their OLA was, and how along that journey are they. So let's say that they've got a 2-hour OLA to fix it. 1 hour, 30 minutes, if it's not fixed, you get alerts going through the organization automatically.
Oh, that's impressive. Can I quickly pivot to one question, which is always at the back of my mind? I'm from the managed service side. How do you deal with security requirements? Because, that'd be very good to elaborate, because you're delivering a good service to Ford Otosan, Ford being a global motor company, right? How do you handle that?
I don't have enough time to go into all the security details, but I can tell you, working with EY, we're up to the top notch in terms of security. We've got SOC, GDPR, obviously all the ISO certification on there. It is completely, we do automations as a service from a group of digital workers. There's no residue left from one customer to the other. All those security concerns are addressed. Obviously working with Ford, which is a very stringent customer for security, we've addressed those. And as I said, over a decade of building this platform, the hurdles that we've come across, we've addressed in terms of really having the best practices involved in not just the security, but also the operations side.
It's good, because I wanted to bring that, because there might be people who don't want to ask about this, but this is one of the concerns.
It's very important, especially from a managed service.
Indeed, for managed service, security is very important. Alev, if I may turn to you for one last question, right? You have been so successful. As I said, I mean, if I could describe a great painter, I would. But where's the next journey for you, Alev, in your firm? How do you take this to the next level? What is your thoughts going future? More processes?
Actually, we have lots of new demands in queue, actually, and we are trying to increase the number of processes that we leave on bots on the whole organization. There are more opportunities, actually, in all departments. So we are trying to also increase the cost benefit, cost reduction benefit from this automation. And also we will increase the inclusion of AI And of course ML, because I am also leading the data side. Actually, we are also having a great transformation there. That's why now we are trying to join the automation with AI and also the machine learning. So there are lots of things that we will go actually with hyper automation service. I know that it will also help us to achieve more good financial results.
Thank you.
In the near future.
Thank you, Alev. Well, and thank you, Malkoc, because we're closed at the end of time. Thank you for your participation. Let's now take a break, grab a coffee. Alev, glad to meet you again. Thank you.
Thank you.